Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Blizzard ANZ Twitch channel. It is that time of the week again. The weekend has passed, everybody's refreshed, and it is time to dive headfirst, no floaty style, into the deep end. That is the ANZ HGC Premier Division. Tonight we have got some fantastic games lined up, and not only fantastic games, some fantastic stories as well. We'll jump into that one a little bit later on in the night, but first, the warm introductions. Where are my manners? My name is Kit Fox. Thank you so much for being here and giving us the pleasure of your company. I am joined once again by my fellow co-caster. We rocked it last week. We're going to do it again this time. GLP, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Kit. Looking forward to another good week of HGC ANZ action. We had a good week to start it off last week. I'm looking forward to seeing how some of these changes are going to affect some of these teams, because this first match we have coming up today, really interested to see how they're going to shape up. So we have Mindfreak coming in their first game back from the mid-season brawl, and they have made a roster change. They have been bringing Mad Hacks to fill the role, to fill in the shoes of Penta, and I'm really interested to see how they really shape up now.
Yeah, that's the talking point. I mean, we're going to be featuring Crimson Gaming and Twisted Vision a little bit later on, but this is the story I was talking about, GLP. Whilst Mindfreak were over at the mid-season brawl competing, they were unfortunately fell victim to some bad timing when it came to the rosters, and Penta surprised everybody with his surprise retirement, even his team as well, and that sort of put them on the back foot a little bit. So over the past couple of weeks, everybody's been working behind the scenes tirelessly to make sure that Mindfreak still have a competitive roster. And the team that they're going up against tonight, GRP, Xylophone dudes, were actually the best sports in this situation, because Mad Hacks was actually playing for them, and he has now been released and acquired by Mindfreak, which is a fantastic story because now they're going head-to-head against each other.
Yeah, we had this story last week with Old Tivin going up against his old team when Aztec went up against Crimson, and now we have pretty much the exact same thing, albeit different circumstances a little bit here with Mad Hacks going up against his old team. So I'm very interested to see how this one goes. Mindfreak still has a lot of the talent and experience behind them, but we have to just have to wait and see how Mad Hacks kind of fits into that lineup.
I mean, Penta is a huge loss. He is a veteran of the scene, has been around for, as long as, you and I have been doing this casting thing. But Mad Hacks is another vet. But having said that, I feel like he doesn't have the competitive experience, certainly not to the level that Penta had, and certainly not to the level that a lot of other players throughout the scene have had. I think this is one of his first seasons in the HGC, not only the Premier Division, but the competitions that came before it as well. So we're going to get into Infernal Shrines to start things off on map number 1, ladies and gentlemen. So let us know what you think of that one in the Twitch chat. Will Xylophone dudes be able to get one over the new Mindfreak? Because let's remember, they haven't actually had a lot of time to cement themselves as a unit with this new addition, GLP.
Yeah, and although we do have to talk about how quickly Mad Hacks is going to fit in with the rest of his new team, but we also have to look over at Xylophone dudes, because Mad Hacks is no longer playing with them. They've had to bring in some substitutes to fill in their the holes in their roster. So they've been bringing in Saralai and also Bounty Knight. So on both sides, we're still not really sure how things are going to land, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Look, we're used to seeing a Mindfreak stomp, and I don't know, I've got a little bit of an inkling that just might not happen tonight. Like we said, Penta falling off leaves a huge hole. Mad Hacks, I'm sure the man has big feet and is able to fill those shoes, but that's going to take time. But like you said, Sorelli actually filling in as the sub for Xylophone dudes, who, it must be said, has quite a fair bit of competitive experience under his belt, and not a bad player in his own right.
Yeah, we've seen him around over the past year doing reasonably well on those mid-table teams, I guess we can say. And he should be able to fit in with the rest of that team all right, because we saw last week the rest of the XD lineup were doing very well. They went 1-1 with their series and looked rather good doing it. They had that really fun Cho'Gall game that was a bit of a shot out of left field that we were not expecting, but they know what they're doing with some of these weird picks, and when you have Flays at the helm, of course you're going to be able to throw some of those weird picks in and get them to work. But yeah, I don't know really what to expect out of this first game.
Yeah, Admin Flay's driving the crazy bus. And let's look, we're just waiting on the man himself to get himself sorted here. He's just having a few issues with the client, restarting that one now. So ladies and gents, if you haven't done so already, make sure you get over to the social medias and follow Blizzard ANZ on Twitter, as well as Blizzard Esports ANZ, and give GameStar a bit of love as well. Shout out to the sponsors. McDonald's, they've thrown their hat into the esports ring here. They've done StarCraft, now Heroes of the Storm. Thank you so much. Love having them on board. They're sharing some love to us. Go show them a bit of love as well. Go over to them and follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and the like. But GLP, if you were a betting man, who would you bet on this one? I mean, I'm actually quite torn. Normally, when we see these kind of matchups, it would be Mindfreak, hands down, all in, bet that $1 million. But now, I'm not so certain.
Yeah, it does throw a bit of a spanner into the works, but I still believe that the veterancy and just the talent on that Mindfreak roster will be able to give them that advantage. Although mentioning just because Penta's going to leave a bit of a hole in that roster, apparently Fat94 is going to be moving into that tank role, which is going to be a bit of a stray from the usual.
Yeah.
We're also seeing him on the flex and the DPS roles in the past, so him moving over to the tank role, it's going to be a new look for them.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking that. I mean, we saw Mad Hacks last week in the opening week, JLP. You and I had front row seats to that, where he played Hanzo, and he actually wasn't too bad, but he just got outclassed on the night. And when it was announced that he was being acquired by Mindfreak, I thought, does that mean he's going to have to play a tank? Because surely you would not take one of the best DPSs, probably the Illidan of the region, Fat94, off it. But now this is going to be interesting. So not only new members, new roles as well.
Yeah, and also another thing to really take into account is that with Fat94 now moving onto that tank role, it allows him to be more in line with the shot calling and the actual plays, because the tank is going to be the one at the front line. He's going to be initiating all of the plays, and he can dictate a lot of the game from that role. And if he is the one making a lot of the shot calls, he can do that much more efficiently from that tank role. So might be able to corral the troops a little easier in that regard. Yeah, so the Infernal Shrines is going to be the map number 1 that we're going on, GLP. What comes to your mind when you think draft of this map? We're just having a few issues with the guys in the lobby at the moment, so bear with us. But what do you think is going to come to mind? What is prioritized for those at home? Well, it's kind of a bit of everything, to be honest. You can go towards a whole bunch of different styles. You can go for the team fight. You can go for the macro style, the globals, they're all viable strategies on this map. And one thing to note is that the tournament realm did get updated. So it's going to be on the live patch, essentially. It's on 34.2, I believe that's the number of it. Yeah, so it's had all the armor changes. So a lot of the passive armor has been shredded away. The experience in a lot of the towers have been moved towards the fort, so you're not going to be able to get those really early experience swings, especially from a map like Infernal Shrines, where a lot of the time you'll have one team get that first objective, get that first Punisher, clear out the front wall, and then move on to another lane, clear out the front wall, and then all of a sudden they've got like a level and a half, and they can just dictate the play from there. We're probably going to see something a little bit different, wanting to try and actually force the play and secure the full fort so you can get those advantages.
Yeah, with the EXP gone, you're really going to have to be a lot more aggressive with your advances and not let the AI do the work. You actually need to get behind it and give it a good old shove. But it looks like, oh no, we've got all the players in, but the players are just making sure that everything is smoothed out, all the creases are ironed out of this game that's about to get underway. Remember, it is a best of 3 series, so first to 2. For those select few of you in the audience. I know I was one of those people once, but this is where the mages come out to play, GLP. And I like that being a mage main, you know, the Kel'Thuzad, the Kael'thas, the Gul'dan. That wave clear is, like you said, prioritized, as is a lot of other things, coming around that shrine phrase, but it contributes equally as much to the team fight.
Yeah, and especially when you do get to those objectives around those shrines, just a lot of that extra damage just thrown in everywhere. You incidentally hit your opponents quite often, and also just clear up a lot of those skeletal defenders. So you can pull double duties in that regard, especially when everyone starts funneling in through those choke points. A lot of that AoE does, those stray hits do get a lot of value. So there are opportunities for a lot of those mages to come in. We're seeing Jaina pick up incredibly over the course of the mid-season brawl. On this new patch, things have changed a little bit. Not sure how a lot of the other mages will start filling in or fitting into that meta, but we'll just have to wait and see once we get into the drive. Gul'dan is another one that does pop in from time to time. He's just the amount of damage he has, just consistent damage, and wave clear is also very strong.
Yeah, when you think mages, you think Jaina straight away, just because of the synergy that Ring of Frost provides with so many hero ultimates or even standard abilities. I mean, the ability to time that and just chain up those CCs is something that definitely cannot be understated. If you want raw damage, however, that's where my man Gul'dan comes in. You've got those Fell Flames, you've got that Corruption, and either one of those builds are 100% viable as well. You stack up the Echoed Corruption, you get those Fell Flame stacks, you're going to either have the broader arc or literally the Echo. It's going to come back and forth, and if you can line that up on a choke point, much like the Infernal Shrines are, I think you're going to see some major damages, but I'm getting a little too far ahead of myself, GFP. We're not even in the draft yet. One can only play. Bless RNGesus. Please, show us some love. Give us some of that mage action.
Yeah, I mean, mages go through kinds of phases. We had quite a while where mages were just not viable. They were just getting punished by the hypermobility of things like Genji and Tracer. You just couldn't deal with them as mages, so they just were not able to really exist in the meta. But now we're starting to see them fall a little bit. Mages are starting to make a little bit of a comeback. It might open up the door for some of those other ones. We saw the Kel'Thuzad last week, but that was it didn't go particularly well. That was not the best showing for a Kel'Thuzad, and I'm pretty sure you'd want a better showing in the future.
Oh, look, to be fair, when you're going up against, the Garrosh and the likes, it's very hard as a Kel'Thuzad to build your blight stacks and B, keep your distance, because let's face it, mage game is all about positioning, and Garrosh can just close that in the blink of an eye. Junkrat is another one that comes to mind, so as much as I hate to admit it, Kel'Thuzad is very situational and very draft dependent, but let's get it on, ladies and gents. We're going to move on into the draft now. It is Mindfreak going up against Xylophone Dudes, MF on blue, XD on red, and Xylophone Dudes will have the first ban.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how the draft strategy ends up developing with this new patch. I mean, we've had a lot of the armor shredded off some of the tanks, so that's actually a bit of a surprise because Johanna is actually one of those tanks that lost that passive armor. She still does have that wave clear and a lot of the extra crowd control with her, so she still has a lot of tools in her kit, but she just doesn't have that armor. She did get a bit of help with her HP pool in alongside that armor removal, so she did get a little bit of something in return, but I'm just a little bit surprised to see her banned right off the bat.
Yeah, can I get an F in the chat for Arthas as well? Pay your respects. I don't think we'll be seeing him for quite some time until a rework comes along. And speaking of reworks, Alterac Valley, I like the map. I love the concept, but the numbers need some tweaking.
It's an interesting map, I'll say that much. I like what it's got going on thematically and some of the ideas when it comes to the objective. Some of the numbers, we'll have to see how it goes.
Oh, it's got potential. It does have potential. Now, Maev was another one that I was thinking of that we might just see slip through the draft, which happened once last week, GLP, and boy, did Xylophone Dudes... sorry, was it Twisted? No, it was Xylophone Dudes that paid the price for that one.
Yeah, they paid the price big time. They just got demolished by that. Even a bit of a highlight play. I believe it was Twisted Vision who was doing that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big highlight plays there, so... I have to see where we go with this first pick. The support pool hasn't really taken too much of a hit.
It hasn't. I mean, Malfurion is probably the strongest support going around at the moment just because of the utility and just sheer numbers that he can pump out. Entangling Roots cannot be undervalued at all. But yeah, a little bit of surprise that Johanna was banned out. And Xylophone Dudes being very cautious about this. They're taking their time, leeching down the entire time pool. We're down now to 5 seconds. But yeah, Johanna was an interesting one. But, Condemn is ridiculous, especially for grouping up I was going to say, especially for grouping up around the shrines, but Auriel is a very interesting first pick.
Yeah, even on this patch, he did take a little bit of on the previous patch, or since the changes from last week to this week, there has been a bit of a nerf to her, but she still has a reasonable amount of strength. But we saw last week, Xylophone dudes, they brought out the Cho'Gall. Maybe this is showing their hand a little bit too early, that they want to maybe at least bait out a lot of responses to a Cho'Gall pick. Because you look at an Auriel, and we look who's on the other, who's piloting that Auriel, and it's like, surely that's a Cho'Gall just waiting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to need some kind of ridiculous battery. Yeah, it kind of does. I mean, look, Mindfreak are no fools. They would have done their study. They would have at least watched the games that were played last week, and they would know that Xylophone dudes are not afraid to pull out the Cho'Gall. And in some situations, it is incredibly viable. But Garrosh and Malfurion, very stock standard coming out from Mindfreak. It's strong. It sends a message. It says, hey, we're going to not deviate from our path a little bit too much. Let's just see what you got. Show us your next two picks.
Yeah, it's very safe and flexible. Opening two picks for Mindfreak. They're not really giving anything away, and
there it is.
They're just gonna go with it. I was thinking it was gonna be a bait, but they're just like, no, it's gonna just pop it right away. We don't care what you have to throw at us. We're just gonna run it back with this Cho'Gall pick yet again.
Yep. And look, that just might be the wild card that Mindfreak need to defeat them. I remember it was a few months ago now, GLP, but remember when Diva was sort of first making her way into the scene? That was the kryptonite that then Nomia were just unable to deal with. Maybe it's the Cho'Gall here. Maybe Xylophone dudes just know something that we don't when it comes to the lineup for Mindfreak. But my eyes are on Mad Hacks. Who do you think he is going to play as the favorite?
Interested to see what they do go towards. I mean, I'm not sure if they'll put him on like main DPS or more of the flexible style of things. I'm just interested to see where these bands go first. I mean, there are things like Tychus, like the obvious ones going towards or going up against Cho'Gall. There are things like Tychus, Karazim, Malthael. You look at a lot of those percentage-based damages, but you also want to not like just throw yourself right at him, because has an Auriel at his back, so they can sustain very well. So sticking around, sure, you have that extra percentage damage, but a lot of times it's not really enough to push through him. Another one of those is Leoric. He just drains everything out of that Cho'Gall, so that's actually a really good ban. Taking that away would have fit very well into the Mindfreak lineup.
There's only so many bans that you get, GLP, and with Leoric taken away, Drain Hope is a monster removed from the board, but like you said, there is still that Malthael, which would probably be that would be my number one at the moment, considering the draft that they've got here. They still do need that solo laner. And the Cho'Gall, once the Cho'Gall gets beefed up a little bit, as does the Malthael. Remember, Tormented Souls did get a little bit of a nerf a while back, and it is the last rites. It's last rites usually now, and I think that just might be what's needed to get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, there is the potential for the Aegis to come out of the Auriel to just completely deny a lot of those potential last rites hits. But to be honest, there are another option is to just not try and just index very heavily into the percentage-based damage. Just try and keep them at range. Try and just deal with them in a more standard way, rather than overreacting with, we see a Cho'Gall, must go for the percentage-based damage. It's a more measured approach, just trying to outplay them in just a rather standard way. And the Jaina, I think they can really utilize to do that. She does have the consistent damage, especially when we see a lot of those the Frostbolt talent builds that we do see. She can just pump out a lot of that consistent damage, and also the consistent slows, which can be really annoying to deal with. And with the amount of crowd control that this lineup has with the Garrosh, Blaze, and Malfurion, it's going to be very hard to see how they get out of a long string of crowd control.
Yeah, so they won't be going for the Anubarak. They are going to go for the Blaze. So the bunkers over the cocoons. So it looks like they're going to be relying on destroying Cho'Gall rather than CCing him down, which is an interesting strategy. I mean, to do that, you'd need to get on the backline and take down Auriel. But hold the phone. Sylvanas and Illidan. Mate, what is your analytical brain telling you about that?
Mate, I'm just finding blank left on his own. I'm just like, I have no idea. I mean, did I miss something? Was there something in the patch notes that just completely fell by me with this? Oh, it's a bit of a... It's a drive out left field. I really have no idea what...
Well, I'll tell you what it means. It means Oriel's going to have an absolute buttload of hope. Doesn't matter who she puts the crown on. So I don't mind that at all. Solo support, you're going to want that strong one. You know, there's no Tassadar or anything like that to support Oriel here. So every single crown target is going to be generating lots and lots of hope. So look, I don't mind that. Having said that, though, Sylvanas Illidan... very, very squishy. You've got Cho'Gall, who is going to be obviously drawing a lot of the attention away from Mindfreak. They want to remove Cho'Gall from the board, but hey, you'd be happy if you got Silver Illidan along with that. Falstad, not bad for the global.
Yeah, I like the Falstad. Yeah, it finishes it off really nicely. It allows them to have another tool when it comes to the macro side of things, and especially on a map like Infernal Shrines, where it is one of those larger ones, you can try and drag around the Cho'Gall team around the map.
Mad Hack's on support as well, so that'll be interesting. He's going to be playing Malfurion. But ladies and gents, we're finally here. It is game number 1, week 2 of the ANZ HGC Premier Division. It is Mindfreak going up against the Xylophone dudes, and it looks as though Flaze has just had a disconnection.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
We will be... That was such a tease. We're just like,
I know.
Getting ready. We've done the draft. We're getting into game. And then no.
I'm feeling it. And Flaze is just like, nah.
Yeah.
A few issues, but the draft was all set. It's all done. So we'll do what we usually do and let everybody get back in and pick once Flaze sorts out his connection. Shout out to Sorelli filling in on the sub tonight. We mentioned that one a little bit earlier on, but GLP, we're going to get there. And once we do, it's going to absolutely deliver, because that draft that came out there from the Xylophone dudes was something that we haven't seen for quite some time.
Yeah, the Sylvanas hasn't really been a relevant pick for quite a while. There's been many metas have been in God, and it's been a while since she was a part of those. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what their plan is with this, if they're just going to try and bum rush some of those structures down and get an early advantage, because we were talking about it earlier. This is a patch where they have moved a lot of the experience away from the towers and into the forts and keeps. Maybe this is something that they're trying to take advantage of, just using the Sylvanas to push down those early forts to get their early experience lead.
Well, I think the Black Arrows don't actually affect the structures anymore, so...
She has to auto-attack them.
There you go.
She can still do it. It's just from her abilities. She can't.
Yeah, the Withering Fire.
She can't just get the easy deactivation on literally everything.
There was a time where the cheese was extremely strong. So
it was. Ugh. The thing is about that, it made it hard to balance Sylvanas, because you had to make her weak because her trait was so damn strong. But now that they've made that adjustment to her talent, where a lot of the abilities will not just automatically just deactivate everything, it gives them an opportunity, or gives Blizzard an opportunity to give her some strength in other areas to bring it back in line, which is I actually quite like.
So everybody just getting the ready ups on now, just waiting for the rest of Mindfreak to whack that R button, and we should be good to go here on Infernal Shrines, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being so patient. Scheduled start time was 7:30, but we're just waiting through a couple of issues. Hopefully that is the last of them tonight, because, man, I'm hungry for some esports. I am hungry for some Heroes of the Storm, and I just want to take a huge bite out of this, because the Cho'Gall has really caught my eyes. We didn't think they were going to do it, but when the Oreo came out first, kind of gave it away a little bit. And yeah, there was really nothing Mindfreak could do about it.
Yeah, it was very obvious right from the start. I mean, we saw them pick it last week. It was a bit of an unexpected, but to be honest, we kind of should have expected it, considering, there's Flaze on the team. Surely we should have suspected something, but yeah, to bring it out so early and so brazenly without really much of a care for what their opponents could really bring up against them, they either have a lot of confidence with this, or they're just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
I think Sorelli is actually hovering Malthael here. Did he not pick Illidan? I think he did. So we might just have to get into his ear that he's got the wrong hero on.
Or was
So we're just going to have to sort that one out. Admin Vexium, who's done a fantastic job tonight by linking into the chat the image of the pick. So well done there. He's been fantastic. But it looks like it is on my screen. It says Malthael. We'll just have to see.
Maybe it was Malthael. So it was just they had to use a placeholder, I believe, in the draft. So it is going to be a Malthael. So they're picking up the percentage-based damage for themselves. It will deal with the gouge quite well. One thing that we have seen in the past that deals with him quite well is like, sure, he has a lot of this armor, but the percentage-based damage will just tick away at him and just grind him down throughout these fights. But if he's able to get that room to be able to just keep that Reaper's Mark onto the Garrosh, remains to be seen, because there's a lot of crowd control on the side of the Mindfreak roster that is a little bit terrifying, to be quite honest. Yeah,
the Blaze, the Jaina, the Malfurion, even the Garrosh with that Groundbreaker Wrecking Ball combo is going to absolutely tear shreds off them. But we're here, ladies and gentlemen. We've finally arrived. Strap yourselves in. We're going into game number 1 on Infernal Shrines here. It is the first game of the night here in the ANZ HGC Premier Division, proudly supported by McDonald's. Mindfreak versus Xylophone, dudes. Let us know who's going to win this one out in the chat. Will it be Mindfreak? Will it be XD? I cannot wait to see how this one unfolds, GL Phoenix.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. And yeah, let's actually just have a little bit of an introduction for some of these teams. On the red side, we do have the Xylophone dudes. Tommy is going to be on the Oriole, so switching over some of his duties. Flaze is on the Cho. Sailor is on the Gull. Bounty Knight is on the Sylvanas. And Cerily is on the Malthael.
And over on Mindfreak, we have got Fat94 on the Garrosh. Mad Hacks, the new addition on Malfurion, John on Falstad, Vanilla playing Jaina, and Ryu is on Blaze. So we can see this map unfolding. There's not going to be any ANZ bust up. The Eye of Kilrog will actually be spotted down in the bot lane there by Mindfreak, and the rotation is extremely strong already. You can already tell that Xylophone dudes want to play the mobile game. They want to get their ganks on. They want to soak up as much as they can and just make their presence known across the map, moving as a unit. I like it.
Yeah, and one thing to note is that Vanilla is no longer on perpetual Malfurion duty. He's able to go over to the Jaina, just have a bit of a change of scenery for him, so he'll probably be a little bit happy about that one.
So they're rotating yet again. You can see you've got the Cho'Gall, Sylvanas, and Oriole just glued to each other, but here comes Fat94 around the backside with a fantastic detainment strike. Tommy says, no thank you, I see you there, boy. And now Mindfreak are just forced to play the reactive game because at the moment, Xylophone dudes, they're just so slippery. They're so mobile. MF don't really know where they're going. They're now going to choose to take the Khazra camps, and Mindfreak will do that. They're a little bit behind, though, so you can already see the synergy, not 100% there for MF just yet, but if there's one thing we know about that team, GLP, is that no matter how far behind they are, no matter how down and out they look, you cannot discount them because they are the comeback kings of ANZ HOTS.
Yeah, they're really good once it gets into that late game. Their shot calling and just that clutch factor they have is really quite important. And yeah, just the wave clear coming out of this XD lineup is just allowing them to just dictate the pace of this early game. Or a great throw down onto the Cho'Gall. Drops it quite low, but the healing is going to be there.
Got that crown up as well. Now, Oriole's going to have to actually get a rotate down onto the bottom because they're missing out on some soaks, so no crown target at the moment either. Cho'Gall just needs to be careful because Fat94 is lurking through down the Groundbreaker just to be a little bit cheeky, and already you can see these two teams just not wanting to engage just yet. Mindfreak are smart. Of course they are. They're the ANZ champions. They know not to engage this Cho'Gall until they are beefed up, until Blaze gets a lot of HP, until Garrosh now finally has that Indomitable. So now they'll be looking to get down and dirty and avoid a lot of that CC that'll be coming his way. Cerily, meanwhile, up in the top lane, has basically had top to himself the entire game. He gets a few cheeky shots on and just does what a good Malthael does, and that is just soak it up, healing away passively as we get into this first shrine phase, 15 seconds and ticking down. Both teams trying to soak up as much EXP as they can. This will be a good dictator of how this game is going to go.
Yeah, and one thing to note is that John on the file side, he's gone for a lot of the lightning rod build. He's taken the wingman at 1 and also gone with the static shield at 4. So a bit of a different build, wanting to have that really start shredding down that front line of XD, as because they did have that rotation to the top side to grab that mercenary camp. on the bottom side, the Sylvanas is allowing XD to just shove down those early towers and give them a little bit of extra room coming into this point.
Yeah, but room, but no EXP. That one must be noted. Those towers not worth anything. Now, Detainment Strike into the wall. Will find Fat94. Throws down the Groundbreaker. Cho'Gall needs to be careful here. Taking a lot of damage. The Hope Heals are coming in from Oriel. Boom goes Cho'Gall. And Blaze will pick up the kill. Well done, Mindfreak. They open up the accounts, getting themselves the first kill. And with Cho'Gall removed, this shrine is basically theirs.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we kind of look at when trying to deal with the Cho'Gall. Sometimes it's the percentage-based damage to just shred down and get that extra real punch through them. But another way is what we're seeing right here. Just the incredible amount of crowd control and just zone control from this lineup makes it very hard for the Cho'Gall to get anywhere. I mean, sure, the Oriel will be having all the hope in the world to get a lot of those heals out, but she's very much gated by her cooldowns. And since she lost that very big talent at 7 to really reduce those cooldowns an incredible amount and make her really quite annoying to deal with, she does have that a bit of a problem where once you get your heal out, you're kind of in a hole for a little bit. You have to wait for that cooldown to come back up.
Yep, so the Punisher will go over the wall. Now, remember that shove in the bottom lane that went over to the Xylophone dudes? The Punisher says no thanks. He's basically going to level that one up. Oh, not quite. They still survive with the one structure intact for now, but as I say that, the Winions will get that one done. Kazra is now being stolen away from Xylophone dudes here. Again, second week in a row, GLP. Their jungle is just getting invaded.
Yeah, they have lost a lot of the control there, but on the bottom side, they are just going to start pushing through. They can deal with waves rather efficiently, but now with the rotation coming down, they could be getting caught out. Tommy going to be the target.
Yes, and Cho'Gall now taking a lot of damage. The roots will fall. Tommy, with little to no HP, in comes John on the Falstad. Should be able to secure the kill. Fat94 hoiks his best mate on top of Oriel. So the healer is down. Cho'Gall just going to have to play a little bit more passively as Sorelli gets to work on the top Shaman camp. That'll start marching very, very shortly. Did have to clear the Mindfreak shove before he turned his attention there. But having a look at the levels, it's 9 to 8, and Cho'Gall again just narrowly getting away. There is a 4-man Mindfreak push in the bottom lane. Blaze in mid. Sorelli the only one up the top there for Xylophone dudes at the moment. And have a look at how low Cho'Gall is. There's not really much he can do against a 4-man Mindfreak onslaught. And now John, just with sheer brute force and presence, creates a space between himself and Cho'Gall. But in come the recruits, the reinforcements. Bounty Knight on the Sylvanas will come along and just provide a bit of defense. That's what Sylvanas does. Her ability to clear waves is second to none in this game, apart from the mage like Gul'dan and stuff like that. So it's good to see her finally come down. But this bottom fortification is going to fall to the hands of Mindfreak. Jaina already not wasting any time, going for the Elemental and getting the extra siege damage. Good advantage so far for Mindfreak, almost a full level.
Yeah, and that's one thing we're really noticing from this new patch with the changes to experience. Yes, with the Sylvanas, XD were able to get a lot of those early towers, but because they were losing out in fights and just experience in general, they have been put in a bit of a hole. They are leveled down, and they had to essentially just give up that fort because heroics were on the table for the side of Mindfreak, and they can't realistically step up to that when a lot of those heroics have very high impact. They could just demolish that XD lineup.
Well, now XD have hit level 10, so they'll be able to make themselves a little bit more known in the fights. You've got Hammer of Twilight has been picked up here, as well as the Shadow Bolt Volley by Cho'Gall, and now they're rotating once again as a unit. We saw XD do this at the start of the game. Tommy actually whiffed the Detainment Strike there, and in goes for you. Blaze goes in, Malfurion launches down the roots. The Aegis goes straight on top of Oriel. Bunkers! In goes the last rights, Gust for the disengage on Falstad, but Jaina securing the kill there will remove Oriel. So Tommy not having a good game so far. Cho'Gall's gone down once and Tommy twice. They're prioritizing their targets very well on Mindfreak.
Yeah, doing it very well, and that last rights was almost enough to take down one of the members of Mindfreak, but the bunker is very good. The Tranquility was also doing a lot of work and keeping the rest of the team alive, and because of that, they're able to stick around. They had more than enough health and mana to just blast down this objective, and I'm a little bit worried about how XD are going to try and hold on with this. They are looking to contest this, and with everyone back now, I want to get this fight to go.
Tamer Strike again finds Fat94. Tommy is opening with that, just may need to hold on to it a little bit longer, but the Mindfreak guys are smart. They'll go for the disengage for now. Cho'Gall, meanwhile, for Xylophone dudes, will get to work on the Shrine. They're behind at the moment, 8-22 in favor of Mindfreak, and in goes Blaze. Ryu again creating it, and there's the Aegis going on top of Cho'Gall. Will it come out on top of the roots? This should be a frag. Yes, Cho'Gall gets taken down. Shadow Bolt Volley has been removed as well, so not only the frag, but the ult as well. That is down for 60 seconds, and Xylophone dudes, it's just starting to snowball out for them at the moment. GLP, they're about to lose their second Shrine phase. They're now behind 2 levels. They need a miracle from here.
Yeah, and have to give a lot of credit to John on the fast stage, disgusting away a lot of that back line, so they couldn't get there in time to help out the Cho'Gall, allowed them to just secure that kill and grant all of that in the mid lane. Ryu and John come together to take down the mouth there, give a little bit of extra space and a little bit more push pressure coming in for the side of Mindfreak.
Yeah, Sorelli just letting the pings out there in frustration. Where was the assist, guys? Well, the rest of the team were just forced to retreat. They're up top dealing with the objective, and then the 2-man gank was just way too strong. So Mindfreak just flexing their veteran muscles at the moment. 13-12 on the scoreboard. We've just played just under 10 minutes of this game. We're about to, well, halfway through the second Shrine phase, and Cho'Gall gets taken down again up in the top lane. Tommy, though, with a fantastic gust from John, will get himself displaced, and John will clean up that kill. Last Rites goes in. Mad Hack survives. Sorelli walks on roots, because why not? And Malthael gets removed as well. So the only person alive for Xylophone dudes is Bouncy Knight on the Sylvanas, all by his lonesome in mid lane, duking it out with Blaze. Ryu has got the sustain for days, and poor Bouncy needs to be careful here, but does have vision on the rest of Mindfreak. They're on the map, assaulting his core. So can't back or give the XP to Ryu, and can't really push Ryu because he's Blaze.
Yeah, and Mindfreak just pushing the tempo of this game. They've gotten those advantages and they are forcing it right into the face of XD. They have all the tools at their disposal, up 2 talent tiers right now, which is absolutely massive. You barely ever see leads of this kind of caliber, and yeah, Mindfreak are just punishing XD to the maximum.
Yep, level 16-13. And remember a minute ago when I said we played just under 10 minutes? GLP, there's a 3-level blowout that has just dawned within the last 60 seconds. So this is why Mindfreak are the best in the region. It looks as like the addition of Mad Hacks really just hasn't phased them at all. He's fitting into this team like a perfect jigsaw piece.
Yeah, and one thing I was mentioning is that with Fat94 now on that tank role, he can be leading from the front, so to speak. Before he was still doing a lot of the shot calling, but he was from the back lines almost, with a lot of those the squishy heroes that couldn't really just walk up at the start. But now that he's on that tank, he can be the one leading the charge. He can be the war leader, and it's quite fitting considering that he picks up the gouge for his first shot in that tank role.
Fat94 just picking up the quest there. So Warbreaker has now been completed, and finally Tommy with a great attainment strike gets Blaze mid charge. The roots will go down. Sorelli unstoppable. In goes Fat94. And the bunker to save from the last rites. There's so much damage, and this is not looking good for Xylophone dudes. They get melted like chocolate in the summer heat. Good night. That is a team wipe. See you later, XD. And Mindfreak at level 17-14, 12 minutes into this game, are huffing and puffing and knocking down the fortifications.
Yeah, and it really felt like this XD lineup, they've kind of given it in at this point, knowing that they've kind of been outclassed in this. They wanted to throw in that Cho'Gall composition yet again and throw a bit of a curveball to Mindfreak, but not overreacting in the draft from Mindfreak. They just played the standard that they know and the standard they are so very good at, and they've been doing incredibly well at playing around that Cho'Gall and just dealing with it in the most efficient way possible.
18-14 now, and this is, look, I don't think I've ever seen a game of even quick match Heroes of the Storm coming back from this sort of deficit GLP. It's sort of delaying the inevitable at this point. Mindfreak, meanwhile, they're not phased. Their eyes are focused in. You can see the sweat just pouring from them. They're going to go down the bottom there, take the Khazra camps. They are going to go for the hat trick. They're going to knock down this bottom fortification as well, knowing full well that there's not a damn thing Xylophone dudes can do about it. The bunker is just absolutely wrecking all the ults Cho'Gall has. It's wrecking the last rites. Blaze, you need to ban him if you're going to take out this kind of composition, and the 1v1 up in the top lane is Bouncy Knight versus John, who well, look, Bouncy got a good conversion on all the catapults up there, but John is just too strong on this Felstead, especially with this level lead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, the Savant's taken the possession, just taking control of a lot of those catapults. If they were left alone, that would have been a bit of an opportunity for them to just take a whole bunch of structures. But with the extra global of the Felstead, they're just not having any of that, just dealing with it incredibly quickly. So very nicely done there for Mindfreak to be able to react to that very well. And yeah, this could be just the last objective of this game. They'll more likely grab this Punisher. There's not really a hell of a lot that XD can do about this one. They're trying to actually just take the fight right now as the Archipelago has been picked up. It looks like they just want to go for the fights to finish this one off.
Yeah, they want to put on a show for us. In comes John, who's just getting a little bit greedy. Have a look at the damage he's able to do to Sorelli there. Tommy is lurking with the heals on standby. The Punisher will now get walking down this bottom lane, and I think that just might be the win condition. You can see the fight about to break out. In fact, only 4 needs to be careful, taking a lot of damage. In goes the Elemental. Vanilla, face rolling like a good mage does, just unloads on Cho'Gall there as the rotation comes on. Finally getting that Frostbite talent up. Mad Hacks into Tranquility on the support. Vanilla off his usual roll. In goes John with the gas. Boom! Gets 2. Back goes Cho'Gall. Back goes Sorelli. And see you later. There goes your HP. Good night, Xylophone dude. Sorelli gets removed from the board as well. Cho'Gall is literally running it down mid at the moment. He has got nowhere to go. This will be game number 1 to Mindfreak.
Yeah, that was just incredible dominance coming out of Mindfreak for this game number 1. We'll having a few questions about how this team would be going with Mad Hacks as that new addition, but it seems that we had nothing to worry about really for this first game.
Absolutely nothing at all. Mad Hacks just fitting in perfectly into this lineup, even though a lot of the players were actually forced off their normal roles and off to something that you might think would be a little bit uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, it's Mindfreak, formerly Nomia. They can flex like you would not believe, and they definitely showed us why they were the best in that game, Jim.
Yeah, and on the other side, XD just going for that Cho'Gall composition yet again, and I feel as though Tommy was a little bit liberal with how he was using those Detainment Strikes, which ended up, he ended up just getting punished a fair bit throughout the early mid-game and was really not able to keep the Cho'Gall alive. Sure, you have to give a lot of credit over to Mindfreak for a good lockdown on the Cho'Gall, so they could just deal with them without giving the chance over to the Oriole, but it was just strange seeing Tommy move over to the support role when we'd usually been seeing him on a lot of those DPS roles. So interested to see how this next draft is going to go, but who knows what we're going to see.
Just a quick look at the scoreboard for McDonald's. 20 kills to 0 in that opening game with 144k siege damage. Jaina did a fantastic job. That was Vanilla, probably the best support going around in the region, forced over onto the mage role. And when I say forced, I don't really mean forced. I say willingly taken up for Mad Hacks. But
I don't think it was an unwilling change for him. I mean, he'd been on Malthurian duty for God knows how long. I just remember that was the joke going into the previous mid-season brawl, and that was what it was just relegated to during that All-Stars, and it was a rather similar thing here with this All-Stars, and so he's getting a bit of a change of scenery, and he's really taken to it quite well.